again. Thanks for joining us for another episode. As I mentioned last time, the first two episodes were recorded several months ago, so this one was also recorded several months ago as a follow-up from the first conversation we have. After this, all future episodes are going to be new recordings, and that's it, really. That's all I wanted to say, just a quick blurb before the show starts, so no more dilly-dally, on with the show. Alright, so we're back.
Good morning.
So we're back once more for episode 2 of this conversation-style podcast that we've decided to start doing.
Giving it a try. We'll see how it goes here.
So to follow up from last time, you went paddleboarding.
Yeah, it went quite well. Survived, and everybody had a good time. We had a great turnout, and it was a lot of fun.
That's good. So first question, no major accidents? You fall in?
No. That was the last thing I needed to do. We had an emergency briefing before we left to make sure everybody had a role in case I did go in, but we chose the evening. It was a beautiful evening to go.
So we talked briefly last time about logistics. How many people did you end up with for the whole crew to get you in?
Well, I needed 4 people to lift me in, and I probably had about 8. So it turned into to lift me into the lawn chair and then lift the lawn chair onto the paddleboard. So we had a lot more. I invited a lot of people, hoping that some would make it, because normally someone's has to work or has another event. So it worked out well that I managed to get in.
Excellent. So do you have a good time? Did it work out well?
Very well, very well. It was nice to be part of the group and not just sitting on the shore watching everybody go out. So that was really a lot of fun.
How far out did you guys go? Did you guys go for a long paddle, a short paddle?
Oh, we stayed in the neighborhood near the beach, but we went for about 40 or 45 minutes, just sort of back and forth, and then around the dock area. It was a lot of fun.
Were you nervous at all?
At the beginning, yeah. At the beginning, that's pretty hard to get used to after having issues in the water the last time I was in the water. So once we settled down, though, it was really quite good.
What do you mean by issues last time you were in the water?
Well, that's when I drowned in Hawaii.
Yeah, but you've spent some time in the pool and stuff.
In the pool, and that's quite a bit different. And it's just 3 of us there, the guard plus Isabel and me.
Right. So when you first got in the pool, which is your first time in the water after your accident in Hawaii, what were your thoughts then? Were you nervous? Were you eager to do it, or what did you think about that?
I was nervous. Didn't know what to expect. The strange part is, as we go in the water, I don't feel it at all. So I don't know if it's warm or cold or, what's happening. When you go in the water, especially when it comes over your bathing suit, you get that sort of twinge of cold. But I don't have any of that. So once we got in, I wasn't too bad, although a little nervous of water going in my mouth.
So the first few times I had you in the pool, what kind of life jackets and stuff did they have to keep you afloat, keep you comfortable?
What they use is a sort of a neck floaty. So think of the pillow that people use on the airplanes. It sort of looks like that, goes around your neck, and it's just filled with air, so that works really well. And then I had on my thighs 2 flotation, sort of like kids put on their arms, but that just brought my legs up so I could float easily.
So you said there's only 3 of you in the water, including you?
Yeah, Bob, and plus the rehab recreational assistant. So that's just the 3 of us, and it's not a big pool, but it's 6 feet deep or 5 feet deep, so it was perfect.
How did they get you in and out again?
Yeah, with a wheelchair. So you just literally, there's a ramp and you roll in, and once I get in deep enough, I just float out of the chair.
Neat.
Yeah.
So, paddleboarding, you going to do it again?
I hope so. It's quite a logistical nightmare to get everybody and everything at the same place at the right time and day. But everyone seems eager to try, and we'll see how the weather holds out, my health, and everybody's schedules.
Will you do anything different next time?
One thing we shouldn't do is actually practice with me in the water a little bit. We could do it first on the shore where people are standing and try to figure out how to get me back onto the paddleboard should I go in. We do have some ideas, but until you try it, you really don't know.
Right, and that'd probably be useful to figure out before
Yeah.
before the real thing.
Before we really have to do it in anger, exactly.
Do you have any bigger plans for paddleboarding or similar now that you've done paddleboarding on a quiet lake, or is that what you're going to stick to, the quiet, calm lake area?
Oh, I think we'll stick to the quiet, calm lakes. I don't need to scare myself anymore.
Yeah, no whitewater kayaking then.
Not happening this week, no.
That's probably
Yeah,
for the
no.
best. Let's stick to the calm waters.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad that all worked out. I'm glad. I know it was a
Yeah.
long process in creation, but I'm glad everybody got together and the logistics worked out.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting time.
Oh, that's awesome. So hopefully in the future there'll be more paddleboarding adventures.
So more stuff like that. It would be a lot of fun to keep doing stuff like that.
Right. So on top of paddleboarding, you had an exciting period of time. About a week after paddleboarding, you went on a big trip.
Yeah, so it worked out really well down to Oregon for the total eclipse of the sun. It was a bit of an expedition. 7 of us went, and the 3 boys and Isabel and I and 2 girlfriends. So it worked out really, really well. It was good because we had lots of help to get me up and into bed and in and out of the car, etc. Gives Mom a bit of a break. And you guys did all the driving and Mom didn't have to do it, so that was really good.
So let's talk a little bit about this trip, because travel as a quadriplegic isn't an easy thing. There's, I think, an infinite number of logistics that people don't really think about, that they aren't aware of. But before we get into that, let's start with the why. What brought up this idea to go to the eclipse, and what was the start of it all?
Well, I'd started working on it 2 years ago, knowing it was coming, trying to plan well ahead. And that's something Isabel and I do. And then when I was injured, it all sort of fell to the wayside. The conversation came up about a month before, maybe 6 weeks before, and said, well, I was planning to go, but with the way things are, we won't. And then Isabel said, no, let's go. So we started working on it. And then the boys all said they were going to different places, and I thought that was sort of cool. And then suddenly everything changed and they came with us, so that was really fun too.
Yeah, I know, at least for me, it was a little bit of changing plans. I also wanted to see the eclipse prior to even hearing you were making plans to it. I didn't even know you were planning this 2 years ago. Frankly, I didn't know about the eclipse until it started showing up in the news again. But I was in Moose Jaw at the time and had tried to make arrangements to go down to Wyoming to meet up with some friends of another podcast to go and watch it there. However, with the posting to Comox and all the move back and forth, wasn't sure if I was going to make it. And at the end of it, like you said, the dates kind of lined up that I wasn't able to make Wyoming work, but I was in fact in Comox during the time of the eclipse. So when I heard you guys were going down, that was a perfect excuse to jump in with you. And I know you say that we're there, we did all the driving and all the work, but like I said, I wanted to go. So this is the perfect opportunity for me to go. And I think similar story with Joe, similar plans, had possibility of not being in town, but worked out just in chance that everybody was in town and willing to go. So we all piled in the car and went. But as I said, it's not as easy as piling in the car and going. There are a few more things to think about. So what are some things as a quadriplegic you need to plan in advance for anything, really?
Well, a lot of it is my health. So in the car, I just lock into the seat and I'm fine. And I don't really have to get out during the trip for the bathroom or anything. That's totally another story. But what I end up doing a lot of is getting in and out of bed's a big event. So we carried a portable lift with us called the Hoyer lift. And we got it from the rehab shop here in town. We rented it from them. We're looking at buying our own, so we'll start working through that. So that's a big piece. And then I need all my equipment. I wear it's called a BiPAP machine to sleep at night, and then my battery charger for my wheelchair. Yeah, it's quite an expedition to move us around here.
So this lift, this isn't a small thing. I don't know if an average person who doesn't have to deal with moving quadriplegics in and out of bed, I'm not sure if they can picture what this is, but this isn't a small device.
No, I think of it as an engine lift to take an engine out of a car. And what they do is they put me in a sling, so underneath me, and then the sling hooks to the lift. And we had an electric one, so hydraulic lift, and up it goes and lifts me out of bed. or out of my chair and vice versa.
So you need to carry this rather large piece of equipment to get in and out of bed. You need to carry your BiPAP machine. You need to carry almost an infinite number of small things, not to mention the bags of medication that have to be planned in advance to bring with. So you're in no way packing light for a road trip of any sort.
No, it's like moving a small army of one person with all my paraphernalia.
Yeah, with your entourage.
With my entourage, exactly.
So the van you have, does it work well for carrying all the stuff?
It's pretty good. We can get it all in. It's a little bit tight, but it works well. And it depends on how many other people are in. But once I'm in my position beside the driver, there's lots of space behind me to put all the stuff in.
Yeah, now is the van you have, though, is your van that you enter from the side, and then you'll basically enter from the side of the vehicle and turn to the right to the front of the vehicle and drive into where the passenger seat would normally be, and you have a special mechanism that's built into the car to latch your wheelchair into the car. Is this like a normal thing for quadriplegics who live at home, or is this a different kind of van? Because I've seen a lot of vans have more rear entry than anything.
Yeah, a rear entry is cheaper, so people with less less financial position buy the rear entry. All the taxis are rear entry, and that makes it easier for when they are not carrying a wheelchair to get stuff in. So mine, I do come in from the side, and that gives me the opportunity to sit beside Isabel, mostly the driver, and not be far behind where everybody else is. So I'm sort of part of the conversation instead of cargo in the back. Yeah, so if you think of a minivan, it's just the center seat is taken out, a big wide open space. The floor is dropped about 10 inches to give me clearance to get in and out, and then I can get in, turn to the right, get in my spot, and away we go.
And so there is space for a couple passengers at the back, right, where the rear seat, the rear bench of the normal van would be. That's still there, right?
That's right. So yeah, it's just the center seat taken out, and then the rear seat is still there.
Okay, so you can fit a few people at least in a huge minivan, with the side entry. So what are some drawbacks of the side entry van compared to the rear entry? Are there any, or is it just...
Well, it's finding parking to get in and out. So a lot of times I'll have to be dropped off at the entrance or wherever we're going, and then pull into a parking spot. Even a handicap spot is very difficult to get into, because if there's a car beside me, I just can't get out. So that's a big drawback, as it takes a lot of space. But other than that, it works really well.
Cool. So you've also done a lot of other traveling besides this road trip. This one, although there's a lot of logistics involved, was easier than some. So you've done a lot of travel on airplanes as well, at least I think a lot for your time as a quadriplegic. How is that compared? Like, how is traveling on an airplane compared to driving?
Yeah, I'm a human delay on wheels there, so I'm always cause a lot of issues getting in and off the airplane. It's again, they use a sling system and put me in an apparatus called an Eagle lift, which will fit in the door and down the aisle of the airplane, and then lift me over the chair. But it takes quite a long time to get me in and out of the lift and in and out of the airplane. So that's a bit of an issue. And then we like to keep a lot of my equipment that I really require with us on the airplane. So we bring our battery charger and our BiPAP sleeping machine and medical equipment with us to make sure if luggage gets lost, we still have all the stuff we need to carry on.
And what about your wheelchair?
Yeah, the wheelchair goes in the hold, so while I'm getting lifted into the airplane, Isabel's taking apart my wheelchair. It takes a lot of the electronics off, including my head array, which I use to drive my wheelchair, and I just cannot afford having that getting broken and then cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, because your wheelchair isn't light. It's not like a traditional wheelchair where somebody can push you around if they need to.
No, my chair with all the batteries and equipment is 400 pounds, so it's I'm 600 pounds of fun when I'm sitting in my wheelchair. So they have to get it into the hold, and we can, get it to recline enough to work. So, yeah, it's a bit of a job to get it there.
Yeah, for sure. You'd be pretty dead in the water if something happened and you couldn't get it started again on the other side.
That's right. It's a big part of, it's like you getting to your destination without your legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a problem. What about hotels? Like, is there a lot of prep that goes into finding a hotel that works well?
I don't use the washroom as the same way as other people, so I don't really need the handicap washroom. But what I do need is a space around the bed. So normally what we do is get a king size bed, room with a king size bed, and then I have room to maneuver around.
Right, because most hotels that have handicap rooms, really, they just have a larger bathroom that allows for a wheelchair to be moved in, right? And the rest of the room remains pretty much unchanged.
Exactly.
But you need space for mainly your lift, right? To get you, your wheelchair, and your lift all close enough to the bed that you can maneuver about in the room, right?
Exactly.
So, that's a bit of an issue. It's a bit interesting that handicap rooms don't really take that into consideration. Mostly they just refer to the bathroom. They don't modify the space around the room. Do you think that's just, is that a lack of knowledge on the hotel's part? Is this an economics problem where it's just too expensive to modify, or?
Space is at a premium, so I can understand a little bit. As the bathroom gets bigger, the room gets smaller. Again, it's a cost. There's not enough people like me that will travel, partially because there's not enough quality rooms, so they just don't provide the rooms.
And just to kind of round out the idea of travel, when you're going out and about in a town, whether it's here in town or somewhere else or to a friend's house, how easy is it to get around? Do you find the general public is well built for people in wheelchairs, or what do you have to think about as somebody in a wheelchair?
That's a good question. We haven't done a lot of going up and down streets. Toronto was quite good. Kingston was quite good. We're going to Calgary this weekend. We'll try that.
So what makes it good? Like, what was good about those places that are different from other places?
You can get up in and up on the curbs. You can stay on all the sidewalks to move around. We did not use public transit. It's just too difficult in the older cities. Vancouver is very good because the transit system is a lot newer than a place like Toronto. So there are all the elevators for me to get around. Toronto just doesn't have that sort of equipment because the system was built long before they considered handicapped persons for travel. So overall, we use taxis a lot, and most restaurants are really good. There are a few that just don't work, but that life goes on, right?
Do you find that you're able to get into most shops and stuff, or do a lot of shops have steps into them, or do them for the most part have ramps or flat level surfaces with the sidewalk?
Yeah, so the older shops, again, built a long time ago or set up in older buildings, don't really have the access, and so they'll won't let me in. But all the new ones are really, really quite good, and we can get in and out without really any issue at all.
Good. So it sounds like you guys have more or less found all the issues of travel and kind of had enough experience now to think far enough ahead, you think? Is that fair, or are you guys still learning?
Oh, we'll be learning for a long time to come. We're a little bit nervous of trying an older city like Europe or even New York because, it goes back a lot before handicapped persons really traveled. So we'll investigate it and maybe give it a try one day.
Where do you find info if you're looking to do this? Where do you go for advice as a handicapped quadriplegic looking to travel?
That's a good question. I haven't found a good place yet, but we'll just keep wandering along and we'll keep trying to figure it out.
So you guys mostly trial and error, so you don't know until you get there, kind of thing.
Really, yeah. But we'll make it work as best we can.
And do you have any other grand travel plans, things that you're going to be new in the future?
Well, we're off to Hawaii to the scene of the accident there at Christmas, and then hoping to go on a Panama Canal cruise next fall. So we've already started working on that, and it seems to be coming together.
Yeah, so Hawaii, that's we haven't talked about this, and I wasn't sure we were going to bring this up, but are you excited about Hawaii? Does it make you nervous at all to go back to the scene of the accident as it was?
No, not really. It just go back, and I have too many good memories to erase it with one bad memory, and although I don't remember much of it, so then maybe I'm safe that way. But no, I think it's good to go, and too many good times to far outweigh the bad times.
Yeah, so you don't hold any grudges then against Mother Nature in Hawaii?
Not at all.
Well, that's good. And hopefully we'll have some good stories in the travel to Hawaii as well.
That's correct.
So before we wrap up for the day, what are all the different things we've been working on? We've been working on a whole bunch of stuff, from different social media aspects.
Yeah, so we managed, Daniel put together a really good YouTube video on how I use my computer. It seems to have gone really well. And we're trying to do another video on my chair, and we've only really touched the surface of all the bits and pieces. Something we really want to try to work on is a video on how I use my phone and my iPad, because it's quite a bit different system than what I use for my computer.
Yeah, so you can look at that video on YouTube under Jim Ryan is Jim's YouTube channel, so youtube.com/Jim Ryan. We just put up a video on how Jim uses a computer as a quadriplegic. It's a combination of a couple different tools, so you can go check that out there. Hopefully we'll have more of those coming in the future. Hopefully we'll keep making episodes of this podcast. There may be some in the future that are just Jim telling some stories from his life here as a quadriplegic and some of the things he's learned. And hopefully a few more of these as well. I'm starting out on a cross Canada road trip starting tomorrow. I'm headed off to Nova Scotia from BC, so it's going to be quite the trip. Hopefully once we get in there and settled in, we can figure out a way to do this long distance, and hopefully we'll have a few more of these in the future. Until then, thanks everybody again for listening, and hopefully you found this interesting. Please subscribe to the podcast, check out Jim out on YouTube, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening once again. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or in your favorite podcast app. Leave a review on iTunes and share with your friends. Just get out there and spread the good word of the Rolling Through Life podcast. As mentioned at the start, all future episodes from here on out will be new recordings, but we won't be recording on a schedule. Both of us have really busy schedules, and between that and the time change with us living on opposite coasts, a schedule just isn't going to happen. Hopefully we'll get one or two up per month, but no promises. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.